What is good, everybody, man? Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. Man, this one's been a long time coming, man. I felt like it's been a minute since we did a live stream on the show. I will be joined by Coach Fred from Alcorn State, man. He's going to hop on, talk a little bit about what he saw from the HBCU Legacy Bowl. We're going to go into some of our top HBCU draft prospects and really and truly just kind of talk some of the biggest topics surrounding FCS HBCU football that have kind of been circulating through the news over the past few weeks. I feel like there's been so much to happen from Shador winning the Player of the Year award over Davius Richard from North Carolina Central. Man, that has got a lot of debate. We could get into some of the comments from the former coach over at Jackson as well. I know that's been a hotly debated topic, but I really wanted to make the main focus of the show the HBCU Legacy Bowl. So if you haven't had a chance, if you're looking for practice highlights, interviews, live coverage from the HBCU Legacy Bowl, man, you can go find it on this channel in the playlist 2023 HBCU Legacy Bowl. We had interviews with a lot of players. I mean, from Keenan Isaac, Brandon Gaddy, all the way to even over in the CAA with Hampton with my guy Keyshawn Moore, over to the MEAC with Isaiah Williams from Delaware State. I really tried to diversify, the players I got on the channel, players I talked to, players I interviewed. Man, it was a great experience. Just kind of looking back, I wish they would have had it on a different week other than Mardi Gras. I'll be honest. So last year during the inaugural HBCU Legacy Bowl, they had 4 days of practice, 4 days to get content, 4 days to see practice live, get feedback from scouts, everything like that. But because Tuesday was Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras Day, they only had a walk through the hotel lobby. You can't install an offense, you can't install a defense, you can't show any skills of some of these NFL prospects in a hotel lobby in tennis shoes and t-shirts and shorts. So I feel like they kind of did a disservice to some of these guys by not having 4 full days of practice. I just felt like they really missed the mark on that one. I really, really wish they would have. Uh, I really wish they would have given them a full week to show what they can do. They had the HBCU Combine on Monday. But man, I really want to get into some of the top performers overall, man. Of course, we're going to get into the MVPs. Xavier Smith, offensive MVP for Team Robinson, 6 catches, 85 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. And I'm not surprised. Listen, if you kept up with the event all week, if you saw any practice film, Xavier Smith was arguably the top offensive performer of the entire event. He was in one-on-ones, he was unguardable. Dropped a kid in one-on-one coverage. I mean, he ran like a I mean, he I thought the kid was hurt because it like his foot got stuck in the turf, but he had no chance. Xavier didn't celebrate. Xavier wasn't talking any shit to any other players, man. He was all business all week. He would just go out there, dominate one-on-ones, dominate scrimmages, and he would just carry on with his business, man. He had one of the best agents that I've ever met, man. His agent is amazing. He has one of the best agents in the entire game. I want to give a shout out to her as well. But man, Xavier, a huge game, no surprise here, and I think he could have hit the 100-yard mark if if any offensive line play was available. Man, the offensive lines got dominated during the game. Absolutely embarrassed. I believe Team Gaither only averaged about 0.6 yards per carry, and Team Robinson averaged about 2. And I believe there was 11 or 12 sacks in the game. And I do think they missed a few on the statistical like upkeep, because I was told on the field that they thought Nelson Jordan had 4 sacks and they only credited him with about 2.5 on the sheet. So I don't know exactly how accurate the stats were from the game, but it seemed like the defensive lines could not be stopped. And I think the wide receivers, the running backs really were hurt from that. And some of the less mobile quarterbacks were hurt from that as well, because they weren't able to they weren't able to make any plays, man. They like, as soon as they snapped the ball, some of the guys playing defensive tackle were in the backfield, and pressure up the middle untouched. man, there's nothing you can do with that. So I was really hoping to see better offensive line play. There were a few tackles, Robert Mitchell, Drake Centers that played pretty well, but overall, the interior offensive lineman, man, consistently got beat. And that's a recipe for a disaster in an all-star game. They weren't able to build any chemistry. They weren't able to communicate. The technique was lacking. It was just an overall, if you were an offensive lineman this week, man, it was a rough go for you. And I talked to some of the guys who picked rosters, who were sending out invites. The issue came because I hear everyone asking, why weren't better offensive linemen invited? One, a lot of the top HBCU offensive linemen, like a Corey Bullock and some other people, transferred, like a Tyler Brown. Bullock went to Cincinnati. Tyler Brown went with Prime to Colorado. Some of the top offensive linemen transferred. Some of the other top offensive linemen didn't declare. And then the other problem is you got guys like Mark Evans going to other bowl games, not coming down here, which takes away from even more top talent at the offensive line spot for for these HBCU all-star teams. Is that the really, really top guys don't come to this event. They accept invites elsewhere, or they didn't declare. So I just think it was a bad matchup where you had very few top HBCU offensive line prospects come to the game or were able to be in the game, and you had every top defensive line prospect outside of Isaiah Land at this event. I mean, that's really what it came down to, is when you have all the statistical sack leaders, all the statistical tackle for loss leaders, all the guys who were at the top of their game in HBCU football at this event on the defensive line, going up against guys who weren't the best offensive linemen, man, it's a recipe for disaster. And that's what you saw this week. And that's why Jason Dumas, man, wins defensive MVP. 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. And like Leon said, there were plays where they would snap the football and Jason Dumas would already be, I mean, he damn near was taking handoffs from the quarterback at times. And I don't remember if I said this on the live stream with during the game with Scotty, but it still blows my mind that he's as dominant as he is. Let me tell you, I mean, Jason Dumas, they have him listed at like 5'10". I don't know if it's 5'10". It could be 5'9". And he could, and everything tells you, man, with that size, you should not be wreaking havoc at the highest level of HBCU football in an all-star game, winning MVP, being unblockable all week long. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if his arm length isn't the same as some of the top offensive linemen in the HBCU on the HBCU offensive line. It doesn't matter if his height isn't there. It doesn't matter if his weight isn't where you would want it to be. I was told by one of the scouts I talked to and said, if Jason Dumas had Cam Peterson or even Isaiah Land, or even, I mean, James Houston size, Jason Dumas, he said would be a day 1, day 2 pick. He said the motor, the talent, the ability to make an immediate impact, man, Jason Dumas would be an unquestioned day 1 or day 2 pick. And it's just because of his height that he's not. And because you can't, I'm sorry, man, the NFL is probably not going to take a chance on a 5'10" defensive tackle playing the 1 or the 3. And I really think, man, if you're an XFL team, if you're a CFL team, if you're a USFL team, this is a no-brainer. You call number 1 right now and say you have a guaranteed roster spot and you need to come over here and go win defensive MVP for whatever league that, the team may be in. He is a first day starter, man, because consistently up until he got hurt this year for Southern, he was unblockable at PV. He single-handedly kept PV in the SWAC championship against that Jackson team 2 years ago. And he was unblockable all week long, man. Because if you guys didn't know, Team Robinson was short on defensive tackles. There were only a handful. So that's why when you watch the film on one-on-ones from practice, Dumas and Cam Peterson seem to be in almost every rep. And it's because everyone was outside playing edge or defensive end or playing the 3. But when it came down to getting in that one gap or a gap, Jason Dumas and Cam Peterson didn't shy away. And it did not matter who was down there, man. Jason Dumas couldn't be blocked. I got to talk to him. You guys could go check out the interview on the channel. But he's even said, man, there wasn't a lot of scouts that talked to him this week. And it blows my mind because for me, I think measurables only get you so far. You got to look at production eventually. And the fact that Jason Dumas, even when they moved Robert Mitchell, who was the MEAC Offensive Lineman of the Year, had a hell of a week. When they moved him down to center in the game, Jason Dumas was still beating him off the ball. That says so much, man, because Robert Mitchell has all the measurables, all the talent in the world, but Jason Dumas was still able to dominate all week long, man. It was super impressive, man. Shout out to my guy Dumas. Shout out to Xavier Smith, two of the top performers this week at the HBCU Legacy Bowl, man. It was extremely impressive, and that's what I'm saying, Leon. He benches 500 pounds. The strength is unbelievable. There was a time, Leon, where he did a bull rush. And I swear to God, man, he probably had the leverage because he was underneath him too. Man, he picked up the center, and it was one of those drills where you had to get to the spot. It really wasn't a pass rushing drill. He just set the dude where he needed to be. I mean, just picked him up and set him right in the backfield, and it wasn't even close, man. Was not even close, and he consistently did it all week, man. You got to give Jason Dumas his props, and it's still a wonder how he does what he does at the size that he is. Now, I have some top performers from both teams. I separated it into Team Robinson and Team Gaither. I didn't want to do just one slide because there were a lot of guys I really wanted to touch on. We're going to start out, man, Nelson Jordan, who was probably, man, we got Coach Fred in here, man. Coach Fred, what's good, man?
Hey man, I'm struggling tonight. Wi-Fi, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm here. I'm on my
Oh
phone.
no, man, you good. You're good. I'll go back real quick. Just talking the MVPs, man. What did you take away from X's performance and Jason Dumas, man? Somehow still being a man that cannot be touched.
Um, I'll start with Dumas first. Me and you kind of talked about that the other day after the game, and he was kind of back to the guy that he had become prior to uh, going to Southern. His first 2 years there at Prairie View, man, he was a one-man wrecking crew. Uh, couldn't be who you put in front of him. It didn't matter what position he lined up. I think it was his freshman year, man. I think he gave all five of our offensive linemen some. He started his right end, right tackle, left, right guard. He went to the center. He went to the left tackle. He gave the left tackle, the left guard some. I think he even lined up at linebacker that game, man. That kid was amazing, and that was the motor that I saw Saturday. And then the X, man. X is from the crib, man. I'm a Florida guy, Polk County, to be exact, man. And I think X did a tremendous job from what I understand from day one testing to carrying himself, and then it didn't hurt. He had a pretty good game as well. I think he did a phenomenal job in helping himself.
So I know I mentioned it on I think Scotty's show if you guys watched during the week. The Chiefs apparently have real interest in X. They are looking at him extremely hard for that new slot that slot position in that offense. Do you think he did enough, even with the questions about his size, to get potentially a look in the fifth, sixth, or seventh round this year in the draft, Coach?
I think he did, and it didn't hurt that Steve Smith talked about it, on television, and it's going to be all eyes on him. Now, what I will say and will be interested in seeing is what all he does at pro day, at his pro day, to see if he runs, if he participates in drills. I think he almost has to do those things, but then again, I don't know what the representation is telling him, that kind of thing. You know, I hear from people back home that he's kind of connected to the $1 million man out there in San Diego. They're from the same high school, same area. So I'm not sure, if he's getting advised on that, from him or not. But I think he has a real opportunity, man. If he does run, he runs another 4.3. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
If I'm not mistaken, I talked to his agent. I don't think he's doing the 40 at FAMU's pro day, and here's why. She said they don't want some random person to be slow with the clock and tweet out for clout that he ran a 4.5 or 4.6 because with HBCU prospects, their stock is so, how do you want to put it, just in jeopardy almost. It's always on like a rock. All it takes is one guy, like one guy who has bought Twitter blue, who looks like he's verified, to tweet out that he ran a 4.5, and that could turn some teams off. So he ran a verified 4.3. She said we're riding with it.
I can go with that. I mean, she gets paid to do that, so I can go with that. And that makes sense. It makes sense. You know, you're not sure who's going to all be at their pro day, but I think running it there was a tremendous boost for him and his opportunity to come.
With Jason, he played both ways, which is still crazy because it was hot as hell down in New Orleans this week. So the fact that he was playing fullback and could go get 3 sacks, I wish they would have got to the red zone and let him get a touchdown. My guy needed a touchdown. I told him I wanted both. He got me the 3 sacks, but I didn't get the touchdown. It's gonna be, in my opinion, I wish he would get a shot, man, because that's my guy. I have a personal relationship with him. That is my guy. But man, it's gonna be tough to convince someone to take a chance on a 5'10" defensive tackle in the NFL. I mean, let's just be honest. It's going to be damn near impossible. Do you think if you're the XFL, USFL, even CFL, to me, this is what I said before he got on the show, it should be a no-brainer. I'm calling Jason Dumas, and I'm saying I need you to come get 10, 15 sacks in a season this year.
Oh, no doubt about it. That's a no-brainer. And I don't know if you were kind of attached to us back then, but we had a guy in the same frame, same build, Sterling Shippey. And the question was about his height, and all he did was go to get an opportunity with the Colts. And from week 1 of being there all the way to the last week, to the last cut, is just line folks up and whoop anus. But it came down to the fact that he was 5'10". And they didn't move on that. And, Ship was able to go over to the CFL. If I'm not mistaken, last time I spoke to him, he's still over there making a career, making money. This was without all the other opportunities there are now, with the XFL, AFL, the Ring League coming back. I don't understand why, like you said, I don't understand why no one has signed him yet, or at least said that we are going to sign him, that kind of thing. I don't know how you don't, just because, what do you got to lose?
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, Leon, that happens. And I'm sure Coach could talk about it. You get ranges like that with everyone because people are in different positions, because there's people who are standing in front of the line who are going to clock it a little bit too soon. There's people standing a few yards back who are going to hit it after. There's people who have never timed a 40 before. They're using a different finger, and your reaction time is different between your thumb and your index finger. So you're going to always get ranges, and Coach can tell you it's probably somewhere in between. If it's a 4.38 to a 4.48, it's probably somewhere about a 4.4.
Yeah. And then it depends. Like I said, I don't know how many people were there. And then, like you said, you've got your prime guys that are right there on that line. And there's only so many of you that can be there. And then there's going to be guys that are going to be stacked over, reaching over, and trying to catch that if it's not laser. So that kind of makes it that's going to give you that fluff, but if it was Bledsoe, and the other scouting agency, those guys, but I'm sure with the NFL, it was the main guy in there. Everybody else just kind of fell in, or with, like you said, from a distance on the line and trying to hit it as well. But if I'm him and if I'm his people, I'm putting out the fastest time I heard. And we'll go, and that's how we'll do it. But yeah, it's a difference because not everybody can be right there on that line.
Yeah, it's and Larry, I talked about this. Okay, so I know the outrage is coming because I know Larry is my FAMU guy, man. He's riding for X. I talked to his agent. There's a reason that players who go to the HBCU combine are not invited to the NFL combine, and it's because the same people measure all the workouts at the HBCU combine that are going to be in Indianapolis in the coming weeks. So it's pretty much like you wouldn't take a test for your whatever class in college twice. why would you do that if you got a good grade on the first one? So his agent said, we ran a 4-3. We did all this stuff. Why would they re-invite us to Indianapolis to do all the same drills and we go up there and we don't run as well or we don't perform as well and then we look stupid? So they said the NFL has all the measurements from the HBCU combine. You can compare that directly to the players in Indianapolis, and it's a direct comparison because the same people measured everything. It doesn't make any sense to invite players there that the NFL already has times and measurements on there. So his agent said the NFL expressed interest, but it would make no sense for X or anyone who was at the HBCU combine to do that.
And on top of that, to coach up what you're saying, there's only so many slots available for the combine. And fun fact, I was in on the ground floor of creating this combine, this HBCU combine, and Coach Prime can verify. We sat right there in the gym, man. We talked it out. I had the notes, still got the notes there, Blue. If anybody want to call BS, and that was my whole thought process going to him in the beginning to create this, because there's only so many slots for that combine. And they're going to always take the kid from, and I'm just using a school, random school, they're going to always take the kid from Ohio State over Alcorn State. It's just what it is. Unless you just put up Steve McNair numbers, God rest his soul, that's not going to happen. So the HBCU combine, like you said, those guys, and you'll see. Well, I hope people get a chance to see our deal coming up. I don't know. Should I say anything about that yet?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so they'll see from our deal where those guys are there, and they have guys that are inputting things into the system on the spot. So when he runs that time, it's automatically put in an NFL database. And from my understanding, the NFL, CFL, and I'm sure now the other leagues will all have access to getting these numbers from height, weight, hand, reach, all that stuff right there at their fingertips.
Yeah, so it's a good thing because I think that because I was kind of with people and kind of with the whole narrative that's like, man, why don't you just add 5 or 6 more spots per position and invite FCS or HBCU guys? But with the HBCU combine now, it's just like, man, that at this point, man, just get into something, put your numbers up, go perform, and everything will be all right.
That's all. I mean, that's all the thought process when I came up with it and presented it to Coach Prime. That was the thought process, just give guys an opportunity, because at the time we had Lenore's Footman, tremendous quarterback for us, who at the time no one showed up to our pro day, which was a big deal. No one showed up to our pro day, but then there were other kids that were on the team with Foot that went to Southern Miss's pro day. And, Foot was like, I didn't play at Southern Miss. I played at Alcorn. And it was just unfortunate that, no one showed up that time. And since then, we've had the opportunity to have the small school combine here, which, us, Valley, Jackson, Mississippi College, all Belhaven, all those guys get an opportunity to be in front of. And that's all you want is the opportunity.
Yeah, and I don't know if people know how common it is across just FCS and D2 for that to happen. Because if I'm not mistaken, Campbell, a lot of those schools do theirs with like NC State, I want to say.
If you're close enough, because there are rules, and I don't think people understand that either, that there are rules to who can come to what combine. You have to be within so many miles of a spot, and then that school's got to take on the liability, so to speak, of allowing you to come in. So a kid here at Alcorn couldn't just decide that he wanted to go to pro day at LSU.
Unless he played there, right?
Played there.
Yeah.
Gotta let you back. But if he didn't play there, he can't just go to pro day. A Florida kid that plays here at Alcorn State couldn't just decide that he wants to go to Florida State's pro day. Even if they were saying, hey, you can come, there's rules that won't allow that to happen.
Yeah. And so moving on to our top performers, I put as many as we could on here, and then Coach, we'll talk about some of the ones that weren't able to fit on the screen, man. But I want to start with Nelson Jordan. Man, this kid from Alabama State, he leads the SWAC in sacks after not playing the first I think he missed a few games this season.
Or something like
that. Yeah, I mean, didn't even play the full season, led the SWAC in sacks. He comes out here, man, has the measurables, has all the performance, and was absolutely dominant as well, man. He was right there behind Dumas on Team Robinson all week long. And the thing with him is he has the measurables. He's not undersized. His arm length is where it needs to be. His production is there. Nelson Jordan could be a sneaky day 3 pick, undrafted free agent guy who could go make an impact, man. And he had, Coach, when I tell you, they introduced him and it sounded like the whole stadium was there for Nelson Jordan. I don't know how many people he had come from his hometown, but it was deafening when he was out there on the field, man. So I shout out to his family really supporting him. And then another guy, Cam Peterson. Coach, you've played against this guy multiple times. He's got the reach, he's got the length, he's got the weight, he's got the height. He has everything you want. And I always try to explain to people how important it is. If you can get a guy who can play the 3, play the 1 with long arms, that is a mismatch from hell for a lot of offensive linemen and on the interior, because all the short arm offensive linemen get moved inside. And if you can win the reach advantage on the inside and control your matchup, be strong, have a lot of counter moves, have that great first initial move, you're a problem to deal with. And Cam Peterson was that guy, because if you go back and watch the film, Dumas, Nelson Jordan, they racked up a lot of stats. Cam Peterson was causing havoc that helped create other opportunities for other players. And man, he was probably, I will say this, the most dominant one-on-one performer all week long. And I was told by the guy who schedules all the NFL meetings throughout the week, Cam Peterson and Xavier Smith were the 2 most requested names out of anybody at the HBCU Legacy Bowl.
I can imagine that. And then, just kind of go back what you're talking about with his measurables, for a guy to be able to sit down, separate, snatch and pull, and still hold his own in that box, and then can move outside. It gives teams a lot of leeway with that guy, because now he can go in a 3-man front and not have to come off the field. He can stay in a 4-man front and not come off the field. He can stay in and they can downsize in the 4-man front when you're trying to put pressure or when you're trying to go with your dime package. You have a guy that can play across the front that becomes very versatile for you in the whole 9. And I was trying to look up how many games he actually did miss, and this sketchy Wi-Fi is killing me.
I think it was just 2. I think he missed two or 3 to start the year, but I mean, still came in pretty strong. But the sole offensive lineman, Drake Centers, and I talked, the tackles, I don't feel like had as bad of a week as interior. Drake Centers was one of the strong points, I feel like, for the Team Robinson offensive line, where I love guys who are aggressive and want to finish blocks. And man, Drake Centers took multiple people and almost put them through the camera in one-on-ones. He was aggressive. He could handle speed better. He loved guys who, because if you can't move on the edge, guys like Drake Center can eat. And that's why him and Ronnie Thomas were such a great matchup, because they were perfect matchups for each other. Could Ronnie handle the size of Drake Centers, and could Centers handle the speed of Ronnie Thomas? And I thought Drake Centers probably had the best week out of any Team Robinson offensive lineman. And Coach, I know you've seen Drake close up over these past few years with you guys playing Texas Southern, man. How did you feel about his performance?
I thought it was very surprising, for the simple fact, like you said, when you're in that spotlight, or when that spotlight's on you, how do you play? Do you play like your regular self, or do you kind of play down? But to hear you say that he was attacking all week, I think that's his calling card. Being able to play nasty, and then he's got that build. I don't know if you can kind of tell people the build. He's got that build.
He's a big dude. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, but like, man, that kid's big. Let me tell you.
3 trunks. And like I said, he's just one of those kids that kind of has that you have to have. And you understand there's a different mentality in there, because if you think about it, and you played there's probably not, if you're playing 60 plays, there may be 3 out of that 60 that you don't touch anybody.
Yep.
Maybe somebody doesn't touch you. Maybe 3. So the mindset has to be that. And that was the only thing I was kind of worried about with him and then a couple of the other kids as we go through. Just how would they be able to? Because they've been sitting for a while. How would they be able to, transition from sitting for a while? All of them been training, I'm sure, but that first couple of days of actual contact, if you think back to your playing days, those first couple actual days of soreness, and now getting ready to go play a game. So it was curious. I was curious to see how it was going to go, but you say he had a pretty good week, so that's good to see because Saturday, uh, he played to his bill. I think
Yeah, I don't think, on the edge, everyone played terribly. Because you look at a lot of the stats. The kid from Bowie went stupid, but man, we'll get to him on the next slide. I'm just gonna say because he is a whole nother level. But I like Larry Harrington too, the quarterback from Langston. His mobility, and I think something that you can't coach, and coach, we can get, because I thought Felix Harper is kind of like this too, where he's not going to blow you away with a lot of fundamentals necessarily. But when they put Larry Harrington into that offense, there was a spark.
it was
He
different.
created energy, momentum, and that's something that you can't coach. And I've really felt like even though he was getting sacked, even though it was tough sledding, when they needed a play, he was able to go make a play. Now, the throw to Xavier, he was a bit underthrown because he was under pressure, but I still think when I look at the quarterback play for the XFL, Larry Harrington is good enough to go play in the XFL based on for what I've seen from quarterbacks the first few weeks of the XFL. USFL, we'll see kind of what they put out year two with quarterbacks. But I thought Larry Harrington, with his spark, with his athleticism, with his command of the offense in a short week in a weird all-star game, I thought he did enough to earn himself a chance at the next level somewhere.
And if nothing else, I hate to say it, but if nothing else, like you said, I mean, he came in, he moved around. Um, he should get an opportunity to play quarterback, if nothing else. But I think he also showed that he does have athleticism and toughness. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, he took a pretty good shot or two and kept going. But it was noticeable, and I can only imagine being there in person, but it was very noticeable on television how it just completely changed when he got into the game. And a kid that can bring that, man, I think coaches tend to like that just as much as the tangibles. Is he going to bring a spark? Is he going to be a leader for us? And I think that kid has it.
I'm with you. And yeah, Leon, I agree, man. The XFL quarterback play, listen, let me find out Eric Barrier or Cole Kelly ain't playing somewhere because I need answers. Felix Harper, I need answers because the XFL quarterback play has been
Rough.
garbage. I mean, Jesus Christ. But man, moving on, Ronnie Thomas, again, another guy kind of like Dumas who's a bit undersized, possibly has to move back to a linebacker role. He said he can do it. He said he has no problem playing weak side linebacker. The Broncos are showing a whole lot of interest in Ronnie Thomas, man. I think they talked to him a handful of times this week. But man, his speed, coach, is so hard to deal with. And I think that's what you saw at Valley is that his motor, his aggressiveness, and his speed, if you can't get your hands on him, your quarterback's in trouble. And he did that all week long. Coach, how'd you feel about Ronnie?
Ronnie played the way he played all year. Not just against us, but to Glass. Yeah, someone just typed in. I'm saying it. Yeah, I think he could actually get an opportunity, or probably should have an opportunity. I don't know where he is now, but Ronnie played like that all year. Rather we were watching someone else, going back watching us, grading him. He is a a guy that plays with a huge motor, and at that size you have to. But he's another one that kind of falls into what you're saying. Okay, you go to camp with the Broncos, it doesn't, it don't pan out. That last cut day, there's no doubt in my mind that somebody should be freaking picking him up. They should be right there at the facility waiting on him to walk out to take him to their facility. Uh, he could make a living in Canada off the edge. Uh, and then, like you said, these new leagues that are here to keep him in the States, there's no doubt about him and several others that they should have been able to play themselves into opportunities into these other leagues.
I hope the Broncos take that chance. But they said Akil's with the Breakers in the USFL, the
Good,
New Orleans Breakers.
good,
So
good.
we'll see. When is the USFL's got to start soon, right? I think it starts in what, a week or two.
Yeah, I think yeah.
That it's got to. I'm ready for that. But man, two D2 guys here: Andrew Farmer from Lane, Jaden Thomas from, I believe it. I want to say it's Benedict, and man, both of these guys have ridiculously. I mean, Andrew Farmer at 6'5", 265 is an issue because he's got the strength. I mean, his arms are ridiculous. And his ability, especially in the run drills, like the one-on-ones with the O-line, D-line. So for people who have never played, there's the pass rush drill, then there's a rush drill where the defensive linemen have to just stand in their gaps. If you're on the edge, you got to set the edge. You got to strong arm your guys, straight arm them. Defensive tackles, you get around your guy. You don't go more than 3 yards in the backfield. There's a whole technique to it. When Farmer straight arms somebody, they got no shot. They can't touch him. He's just too long. And I think all week he showed his versatility, being able to play inside and out. And for Jaden Thomas, was the second leading receiver behind Xavier Smith. And all week long, here's what I love about one-on-ones. It shows who really is a dog, because who is looking for that matchup? All week long, Jaden Thomas said he wanted Nugget. One-on-one with Nugget all week long, made some big catches against Nugget, competed with Nugget. And listen, I got to give him his props. He didn't shy away from all the hype, all the measurables, everything. He said, I want the biggest and baddest DB out here, him and Keenan Isaac, and I'm gonna go one-on-one with him from D2. So I love Jaden Thomas's mentality. I think he had a great performance in the game, and all week, man, he made plays against some of the best corners against Team Robinson.
Jaden helped him. He helped himself, and then it also helped him that that Nugget got the attention that he got, because now it's not, you're going against some other guy. Now you're going against a guy that the real people are here to focus on, that kind of deal. But back to Farmer. Farmer ran a 4.7. That's tight end stuff. You know what I mean? 4.7.
It's 6'5", 265, man. Flying.
Amazing. So that young man's got himself into a situation, I think, of where he can get an opportunity. Now he just got to get in the door, and hopefully he'll be able to take it up. But to be that size, man, to run a 4.7, and we're not talking like 4.79, we're talking about almost a 4.6 from what I'm understanding, and that's moving for that size of a guy.
And then Isaiah Cox, final guy, Alabama A&M, man. He all week making plays in the slot. He can make plays outside. I loved his route running, man. I think he's that type of guy who, short to intermediate, he can make a living because he is so good underneath 10 yards, creating separation on those type of routes, catching the football and getting upfield and making plays in space, man. I think Isaiah Cox had a big week. I really wish, I know hindsight's, 2020. If he could have been the feature guy when they still had a Keel throwing the ball around the yard, he would have been an issue in the SWAC. It just happened to be his big featured year was the year their quarterback play was not up to par. But I think Cox, USFL, XFL, he's going to find himself a role.
Definitely should. The thing, I caught a couple clips of him on social media. Even in tight spaces, he's really good with his hands. The couple clips, and sure, social media, it's highlighted up, but no body catches, really extending hands, arms to go get balls. I think that is a tremendous attribute for any receiver. If you can see a receiver in tight space and he actually extends and understands, catching it away from my body, using my arms as shocks, and not letting it beat me up and, trying to body catch. I think that's a huge deal. And some of the clips that I saw of him, that was really impressive, man, to see him get in and out of breaks and then snatching things with his hands, full extension. Very impressive.
Huge week, man. Getting to Team Gaither real quick. We got to start with this. This is a bad kid, man. I did not know about him coming into this week, in all fairness. By day 2, Joshua Pryor was the talk of the entire Legacy Bowl for Team Gaither. 6'5", possibly 6'6", 265 and can move and can get after the quarterback. I believe he had 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, led Team Gaither with 7 tackles, can play inside, can play outside at his natural edge position. Joshua Pryor from Bowie State is an issue. I heard Courtney Cord from North Carolina Central and the D-line coach for Central talking during practice said if they win the game, it will be because of number 0 on defense. That's how good this kid was. And anytime Coach Cord is giving someone that type of praise, you know he's a dog. And then Joshua Pryor by far was one of my favorite prospects to watch play this week.
They got it as quick hands, run pass transition, flexibility, balance, has a second gear after clearing that first block. As they said, it's a real sleeper dog of an athlete. Again, man, it's just so many good players, like you said, and I'm loving it because all these leagues are bringing opportunities for these guys. And guys like himself, Bowie State, yeah, but I'm sure you can line him up. You could have took him to Mobile, man, and he would have did the same thing.
I think he could. Let me say, I think he could have.
Not all of them, but he's one of those ones I think you could have took him to Mobile a couple weeks ago, and he would have done the same exact thing. Same exact thing.
I was so impressed, man. And shout out to Bowie State too. You know, Coach Damon Wilson came down to support his Morgan guys and his former Bowie guys, but I think it might have been the entire Bowie State staff was down in New Orleans this week. They came and supported their guys.
Off of a championship run 2 years ago. Yeah.
And then Brandon Gaddy. Let me say this. 6'4", 290. It's 100 degrees on this turf field. They just practiced for 2 hours nonstop, full contact the second day of practice. He ends practice off by just doing backflips for fun, for video, just because. Man, I don't think people understand the athleticism to do backflips at 6'4", 290.
Do backflips, period.
That's what I'm saying. Like, man, listen, I even when I was at my like most athletic peak, I could not backflip.
Still can.
That's what I'm saying. And he was dominant too. Now, I asked him, they moved him to Gaither because they were a little bit low on defensive linemen. I was super impressed with his physicality inside. I think at 6'4", 290, if you can get him up to about 300, 305, he's going to be an issue inside. And he still has that athleticism to make an impact. I think both the Alabama State guys, Nelson Jordan and Brandon Gaddy, their draft stock skyrocketed after this weekend.
Yeah, and they had a whole segment on him doing that, man, which I thought was pretty cool in between plays. But yeah, when a big guy can move like that, man, it just becomes his stock goes up, like you said. And like I said, it's not a lot of guys there this week. They would have all went down and competed. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a few guys that I think would have went down there and just wreaked havoc in Mobile a few weeks ago. And, he's one of those guys as well. A big athletic guy, like you said, add a few more pounds and keeps his athleticism. I mean, he's got an opportunity, man.
He does. And Isaiah Williams and Keyshawn Moore, two guys, one from Delaware State and Isaiah, other from Hampton, Keyshawn Moore, who already has a WWE contract too, by the way. I don't know if many people knew that. I feel bad. I did an interview with him and I was doing some research afterwards. I was like, damn, I should ask him about the WWE. He got signed to the WWE Next last year.
That's something you don't hear every day.
That's what I'm saying. But both these guys had big weeks. Isaiah on the edge, man, being 6'4 plus, being as fast as he is. I still haven't seen this 40. I really want to see his 40 because I would not be surprised if it's right there with Farmer, maybe even a little bit lower.
Now that would be real interesting, like you said. If he's in that range there, I just don't know how some of these guys get denied the opportunity. That was impressive. And just the overall group, man, and you were down there and you can tell us all more about it. But just talking to a few kids, the overall group and attitude of the kids that were there was, tremendous. But when they went to practice, it was serious competing going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing that, has to go on in those situations, because that's what the scouts want to see. But when you talk about guys like Pryor, uh, Informer, and think, I mean, those guys at the lower level don't get as many opportunities as the guys at FCS HBCUs. So imagine the spotlight that they were able to put on themselves just from this opportunity, man. I think it's huge. Tip my hat again to everybody that played a part in that deal, as well as you, because you were down there all week, tweeting and informing, and that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think what makes Isaiah so tough to deal with is that he's not only that he's fast and athletic and long, but man, his hands are so active. And I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough in terms of defensive line technique is that when he comes off the ball, the way he swipes and he's so, I would say, effective or efficient with it that it's not just like, uncontrolled. It's just like swiping air. He knows where you're trying to punch. He knows your counter to where you think you're trying to move him. And man, it's just like he knocks your hands all out of place, and then the offensive lineman never touches them. And by the time he realizes that he's past that back hip, and he's to the quarterback. And so I think that's something that Isaiah Williams does really well that a lot of people overlook. Moore is more of a power guy, in my opinion, where I mean, he's just grabbing people, moving them out of the spot, and then he's getting to the spot that he needs to go. So I thought it was very interesting that you look at Pryor, Moore, Williams, Gaddy, they all were effective, but they were all effective in such different ways. They all have different stylistic attacks to their game, and I thought they were all effective. And it was really cool to see just the technical part of what their game being finally recognized on film.
And you sped right past me, tipping my hat to you going down and coverage and giving hours for helping the event with more notoriety. But I like the way you flew past that. But yeah,
No, man, I appreciate it. Hey, I love it. I love getting down there, getting the film, man. This is your guy. You wanted him on here. I was gonna put him on here too, but I'll let you take the lead. Your guy Alfonso Graham, Morgan State running back coach. Why did you feel like you had to give him a shout out for his performance this weekend?
man, the kid just I felt just sitting there watching. Um, I felt he just played extremely hard, man. Um, there was opportunities to bounce that thing outside, and he would have none of it. It's running back is a special position, and in an all-star game, it's really special because you don't know nothing against anybody up front, but you just don't know how that's going to go. Um, and in all-star games, defenses are supposed to be ahead of offenses, that kind of thing. But he wasn't trying to bounce anything. He was putting his foot in the ground, going that away. And it seemed like every time he had an opportunity, man, he played 100 miles an hour. So that's when I told you, I was like, I got tip my hat to that kid, man. That kid played extremely hard. I was really impressed with him.
I hate. Yeah, I talked a little bit about it already, but I feel so bad for linebackers and running backs because with everything being no contact, it's so hard for running backs and linebackers to really shine at certain games until it gets live. But I will say, Graham, I think his biggest strength throughout the week was his ability to win one on ones when it was linebackers versus receivers route running. He was untouched. His athleticism, his ability to move in a tight space, there weren't many linebackers that could hang with him. And I also think with a smaller running back, you kind of have this perception that he's going to avoid contact or he's going to try to get down, do all these things. He seeks out contact. He's ready to meet you in the hole and he thinks he's going to win. And I think that mentality is invaluable. And I agree with you, man. I thought Graham had a hell of a week.
Good. Like I said, I'm glad it worked out, man. And just watching that kid, man, I think now it's going to be tough. That's one of the toughest positions, so to speak, like you said, to get an opportunity. And I hope he can do different things to bring more value to himself, be able to get into an opportunity, into a camp. Um, but he laid it all out there, man. I think he did anyway. I don't know if he had anything left in the tank, but he
Oh,
played.
no. You're good. I mean, so the last three, we got Robert Mitchell, NCCU. Man, it's self-explanatory. Dominated one-on-ones. His technique was unbelievable. He had to go up against in the game the toughest defensive line you could possibly put together for HBCU football outside of maybe adding Isaiah Land at defensive end. And he excelled, and he played center, he played guard, and then he played a position he's not used to where I thought he looked most comfortable, which was tackle, which is huge because even if he's not a starter in the NFL teams will love to have a guy who's a sixth or seventh man in that rotation that can play any position due to injury, due to a guy not playing well. The fact that he can play all three positions at a high level, where I think he's more of a guard or tackle than he is a center. I think when you get guys who have never played center, snapping the ball, getting your head up, getting being quick with everything is very difficult to do. So I think tackle and guard are where he fits best at the next level. But the fact he can play 4 out of the 5 positions at an extremely high level makes him an invaluable draft pick. And I really do think, do not be surprised if you see his name called in the 6th, 7th round in the upcoming NFL draft.
If nothing else, kind of like you said, if nothing else, teams would definitely keep a guy like him practice squad because you're injury away, like you said, to where you got to get a guy that's ready to go, whether it's at right guard or left, and he's a guy that can do that. Do you know what he measured out at? That was something I was curious about.
I have it on a sheet somewhere. I don't know if I have it on me. Let me see if I can pull it. Let's see if they send it in the email. But if I'm not mistaken, it was like 6'5". I want to say over 300 pounds, but
Good. But yeah, offensive linemen that can play multiple spots are at a premium, and that's at any level of football.
let's see. Okay, my bad. Not 6'5", but he's 6'3", 305. That's still a monster of a man.
So those 3 inside spots are definitely where those 2 guard spots. I don't know if they're at the level if they would venture to put him out of tackle, but these other leagues, I don't see why not. You know what I mean? Because he could do, like you said, at that point, if you're talking at an XFL, he could play all of them and be pretty good, be really good.
And then the 2 kind of honorable mentions here, man. Jalen Fowler from A&T, who I thought was the best quarterback probably throughout the week in terms of efficiency. I think he only missed 1 pass in the game. And I thought he did pretty well, man, for the offensive line, not being able to block a damn soul all game long. He showed a little bit of composure there, was able to come back in the game after getting sacked repeatedly. I like Fowler's guts, man. I think XFL, CFL, USFL, I think he can find him a spot. And then Jashawn Bryant, it's tough for linebackers to stand out, but I think he has the athleticism, the ability to play in coverage, and also just that mindset to come downhill and make a play. And he also blocked that punt, which I was at the game. I still don't know why they called that back, but
Well, they on television they said that it was a part of the rules,
that's
not
so weak.
to rush the punter, 2 steps and then you're into it. So they talked about that kind of heavily on the broadcast.
That kills me because that was a hell of a play. He came flying in there.
Well, that might have been the issue because everybody else was like, "Whoa, dude, what are you doing?" And he's just, yeah, about that being.
I still love his mindset and the fact that he can go play special teams, man. That does matter. If you're a bubble guy, your ability to play special teams can earn you a roster spot.
All special teams, no doubt. No
So
doubt.
shout out to Jashawn Bryant. Listen, man, you still blocked the punt in my heart. So I'm gonna still credit you with the punt. But coach, these are not in any order. I just want to throw this out here. These are not in any order, but these are just some of the top HBCU NFL draft prospects with some honorable mentions down below for me and Coach Fred. Coach Fred, I'll let you start out, man. Let's just start out with the similar ones. Keenan Isaac for both of us, man. Coach, what do you love about his game?
Man, 6'2", 180, long arms, can transition, can get in and out of the breaks, man. A willing tackler. I think he has really good skills when the ball's in the air for DB. But you can't teach the 6'2" with the wingspan, man. uh, that gets you in and out of trouble a lot. And I really like him, and I hope he gets an opportunity. I hope he runs well at his pro day to get himself into an opportunity. But yeah, 6'2", 188, 190 pounds, maybe a 6'5", 6'6" wingspan. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Man, I think he even said in my interview, I got to catch up with him after the game. He said that the scouts' criticism of him was long-term speed. He doesn't have that top end speed that you really want in a corner, but his quickness, his ability, his ability to play in coverage, his length, his ball skills, all that's there. They just don't know if he has that top end elite speed that you see with some other corners. But Xavier Smith, man, we kind of already talked about him. Man, he's just that guy. He had a stupid week. His route running, his ability to catch the ball even at his size, his ability to play special teams as a return specialist, he's checked all the boxes in terms of a prospect coming from the FCS HBCU level. But Coach Kamari Everett, I think this is self-explanatory. But when you're a guy who's 6'5", 260, and can play in the slot and beat DBs consistently, there's no chance that he can't be a top prospect.
I don't know how he doesn't get called, unless there's just books, pages of some things that teams may shy away from, whatever. But if that's not evident, I don't know how he doesn't get called. He is a nightmare of a matchup. He can be an inline guy. I think he's put enough on tape to show that he's a willing blocker. Everybody knows about the pass matchups. I just don't know how he doesn't get caught.
I have no idea either, man. I really think, man, because I came into the season super high on him. He didn't have his best year. Now, you could say that's due to the quarterback play of Bethune-Cookman, the way they used him. But I don't see, with the way the tight end position's going, with the Darren Wallers, the Travis Kelce's, the Kyle Pitts, those big athletic tight ends playing outside, not necessarily coming down, lining up, blocking. Man, he is made for that role. You have to give him a shot. I don't see how they don't. But moving on to Aubrey Miller, Coach, I've spoke about what I like about him, his aggressiveness, his leadership, and I think it's the intangible things you can't coach with Aubrey. His football IQ, his leadership, his whole mentality. Aubrey Miller, to me, talks, looks, everything is a pro with Aubrey Miller. And so I think his time at the Senior Bowl, putting back-to-back 100 tackle seasons, at Jackson, I think Aubrey Miller checked more boxes than anything. And then his coverage grade going from a 56 to a 90 in just a season, man, you got to give him credit, man. He understands what his weakness is, and he was not afraid to work on it and put himself in situations to show that he improved on it. I really think Aubrey Miller, his stock has skyrocketed this offseason.
Yeah, it's just going to be the team that has the fit for him. But he's another kid, like you said, that can play all the special teams. He can play the punt. He can play on punt block, punt return. He runs well enough to play on kickoff. He's physical enough to do that. And like you said, he's an even better kid. If you ever have a chance to talk to him, he's an even better kid. And I think teams want that kind of stuff in their building more and more. And then to go to the Senior Bowl and not fall off, I think was a huge, huge, huge step for him going forward. I'm with you on that one.
To compete in a linebacker room that had D. Winters, that had Carlton Marshall, one of the best linebackers in Troy history, to have Marte Mapu, a Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year, to have all these stars in a linebacker room, and Aubrey emerges the leader, and Aubrey emerges the star, the player of the week in that room. Man,
Crazy.
that spoke volumes to me. That's all I needed to know with Aubrey Miller. But Coach, one player that we both had to, I'll come back to my guy Mark, because I'm a little upset you didn't have him. The O-line disrespecting your list. We'll get to that. But Shaq Davis, you're a wide receiver guy. I know what I like about Shaq, but I want to hear what you like about Shaq right now.
I absolutely love Shaq Davis. I don't know if there's a better deep ball guy that I've seen here. He can go get it. He can go get it over top of you. He can get it underneath. Uh, 2 steps, and he's 100 miles an hour. He's a little bigger than I thought he was, which is a plus. He's got toughness, man, and he's got the it, man. He knows he's the guy, um, and he carries himself as the guy. And he faced double and triple teams all year and still got his. Still got his. Um, I absolutely love him, and he should definitely be a high second day guy. Definitely.
I'm with you. And the crazy part is I talked to some people who were at the East West Shrine Bowl. They said his strength was at the intermediate to short, and he struggled on the deep ball, which is the complete opposite of what he's shown at South Carolina State. I'm like, if he can put all three levels together, this kid's a matchup nightmare.
Man, he struggled at deep ball in the bowl game, huh?
I they said route running. They said his route running at the top of the routes got a little lazy. That was the critique that I heard from him.
Okay.
But when you're that big and you know you can win the matchup, hey, listen, maybe you get a little sloppy because you know you can win that jump ball.
Hey, I got to get a definition of that. I want to know what that is.
Yeah. Oh man. And then the last one that we both agree on, Isaiah Land. Coach, I've went back and forth. He's probably, I'll be honest here, because I love Isaiah, I love Zay, but he's the prospect I've struggled most with and my feelings about him. He's been as high as my number one or my number two. Mark's been my number one the whole time. He's been as high as my number two HBCU draft prospect, and he's fallen out of my top 5 at times. I don't know, like every time I watch film, every time I reevaluate it, I come away with like a little bit of a different impression. How do you feel about him? Because I see the pass rushing ability at the Senior Bowl, getting the sack. When he can get his hand in the dirt, he uses his speed to get there. But then I see some concerns on, is that really going to translate at the next level? And I'll be honest, I do have some reservations about that. How do you feel about Isaiah Land as an HBCU draft prospect?
I like him, but at the next level, I don't think it's with his hand on the ground. Now it's going to take a little development, and if a team has the time to develop him to be a full-time stand-up guy or come down off the edge every now and then, but actually putting his hand on the ground, I'm like you. I just don't see that because you got those guys, Tony Baselli type guys, and that's tough.
Trent Williams.
Yeah, that's tough. For him, that would be a tough matchup to me. But in a situation of where he can come in and stand up and be on the edge, moving to the back, I think he's got enough to get that off and have a chance to make plays. But full time with his hand on the ground, I don't see it. I'm kind of like you on that. But I think the week over there in Mobile gave him an opportunity or put him in a situation where I'd be very surprised if he's not in second or third round. I'd be very surprised at that.
So for me, when I look at him, like I want to get your opinion too. When I look at his best fit at the next level, I see a team one using him on special teams because he has the athleticism to play special teams, whether it's punt, kick, whatever you want to do. If he can fall into a role where he's a weak side linebacker that can play a little bit of coverage, you don't have him matched up on a slot, you don't have him matched up on a hyper, an Alvin Kamara type running back, but someone who can play a little bit of zone coverage. No man on man, just put him in a zone scheme on the backside. And then when you need him, he can walk down, stand up pass rusher, edge roll. That's where I see him thriving. Like, I don't even see him really working in a James Houston role per se. Just in my opinion, I don't even see him fitting in something like what James is doing with the Lions. He's going to have such a specialized role to me that, I mean, is there a team out there that you see, or am I missing the point on how he's going to fit the next level? But I mean, what team out there do you think has the scheme for him to really succeed in?
You're not wrong, but I had the same thought with him when they were comparing him and Houston, two different body types.
Yeah,
And for me, what the Chargers do with their 3-man, I think that's
I like
where he can, fit. And that's where I go back to when I said earlier, a team that if they have time to get him and to develop him into being able to drop underneath to not carry two, but be able to drop underneath to be able to get to the hip of one, type things. Because he runs really well and can do that. But now he's just got to be taught to be able to do that full time, get back to the deep curl. I think, my Commanders, they run that kind of scheme, and they play with smaller linebackers, so to speak, outside guys, so to speak. And it's got to be a fit like that. I'm with you on that. It's got to be a fit like that. I don't think he could be full time with his hand on the ground or full time in coverage because he's never consistently done that.
I'm with you because I want to see what his 40 is. I want to readdress this next week at the combine. Because if he can hit that, I mean, what are you expecting? What are your expectations on his 40?
I'm expecting at least in the 4.6 range.
If I can get a 4.5, 4.6, I feel better. I'll be honest. I will feel a lot better because I also like the Charger comparison or the Charger fit because I do think for him to reach his full potential, if you can have a guy like Joey Bosa on the other side and you bring him down as an edge rusher, that's great because guess what? The attention is going to Joey Bosa and you get a one-on-one opportunity to use your speed. So, and I even like the Commanders because what? You got Allen in the middle, Montez Sweat on the other side, if I'm not mistaken. That's a
Chase.
tough matchup because Sweat's fast too. Sweat's a burner.
Yes. Yes. And Chase on the other side. And you get a chance to where now they can move like they've done, in certain situations where they can move Chase inside. Now he's off the edge. In that type of situation, I think he could really thrive. Look at me playing GM, man. Doug Williams.
I like that fit. That Charger fit, it got me a little bit excited. I'm not going to lie to you. That Charger fit's got me excited. But looking at some of the guys that we differ on, I'll start with Mark Evans. Again, your offensive line bias here making me sick, Coach. I need some offensive linemen in this list. But Mark, the best offensive. I mean, I think him and Cody Mock from North Dakota State, two of the best offensive lineman prospects in this draft class. Mark has the size, Mark has the production, the technique, the ability to play multiple positions. He's a kid who it can be a leader, a 4-year starter, has the experience. I think Mark has every box checked, in my opinion. I think he showed it at the East West Shrine Bowl. I think Mark Evans, to me, should be a no-brainer early day 2 pick.
Oh, most definitely. And I think if teams are really about it and not be scared off, he could possibly sneak into that first day because he has the measurables. Kind of like the kid a couple years ago from Alabama State who snuck in with the Texans.
Yep.
And I think, and you're right. I didn't put him on because to me he's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I feel that.
Brainer. And I'm like you. It's got to be early day 2. Early day 2. Tyron Armstead, has shown that you can come from that. So, I think some teams would, take an opportunity, take a chance on that. No doubt about it.
Man, I love his game so much. And he's such a great dude too. And I think he's going to kill the interview process, man. His combine efforts, I'm expecting big numbers on the bench press. He's extremely, extremely strong. I know he's been training hard for it. I'm hoping him and Isaiah go to the combine and really show out. That would make me, I'd be ecstatic for that. But coach, you left one of the wide receivers. I thought you would have this wide receiver on there when you sent me your list. Jadakiss Bonds.
That was tough. And when I get to my other part of my list, that's why I didn't put him on. And you'll know right off when I get to my list as to why, it came down to him and 2 other guys. But he's a guy, man. Bond. I think we talked about him in a previous show or whatever. Man, he's got to get an opportunity, don't you think?
I mean, I think so.
I hope I'm right. I hope you're right. And if not, man, again, the Rock's got to come get some of these guys, man. You know what I mean? Chris Blair is doing amazing in that league right now. They're struggling offensively, but he's doing a great job. Jadakiss fits that mold. He fits that mold for me for my kid Seth Roberts, who played in the league for a while with the Raiders. Just a tough, hard-nosed kid, and he's got to have an opportunity. I think he's definitely got to get an opportunity to play.
I'll say this. He is 6'4", 200 plus pounds. Had almost 3,000 yards receiving and 34 touchdowns at Hampton.
And just like my man Shaq, they know they weren't going to see one-on-one at all.
No.
From start of the game you weren't going to see one-on-one at all, and just went out there and did numbers.
And let's not forget, he did it in the CAA, who's got some pretty good defenses. Delaware, top 5 in pass defense. William & Mary had one of the best defenses in the country. Richmond was in there. Rhode Island. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, he wasn't out there facing scrubs. He was playing in one of the top FCS conferences out there, putting up numbers with no quarterback. There might not be a person in the chat who's not a Hampton fan that can name the quarterback that for Hampton last year. I'm just saying, okay. I think Jadakiss Bonds gets slept on because of where he played. If you put Jadakiss Bonds in, let's not even take it Power 5. Put him in a top FCS or HBCU jersey. You put him at Central in the Celebration Bowl with Davius Richard. You put him at Jackson. You put him at Southern, Grambling, FAMU. You put him in a name brand, like one that doesn't get overlooked like Hampton. Jadakiss Bonds is talked about endlessly on Twitter.
If he's at Central Florida, we're talking Group of 5. Definitely no brainer, second day type thing.
People always forget Hampton for some reason. It's like they went to the CAA and everyone in the HBCU space was like, "Who is that? We don't talk to them no more."
First name.
Exactly. And so, my last two real quick. Cam Peterson, already talked about him. I think he's put himself in the conversation due to measurables. And then Isaiah Bolden. And this is kind of a controversial one, but I think it has more to do with the electricity he brings special teams wise. I think you saw it a little bit like Montrell Washington from Stanford last year, where he was drafted as a wide receiver, but it was more due to his special teams, and then he made an impact at wide receiver. I think that's the same with Zay. He'll get drafted because of how electric he is on special teams, and then he could fit into the DB room, and we'll see where he goes. But I really do think NFL teams, they put so much stock in rookies contributing on special teams that it's going to help Zay have a better chance than some of these other prospects of getting drafted, and that's why I had to include him.
Yes. Now you got a kid, like you said, can play all special teams, help you in the return game, and then can come in and help you in your dime situations as well, and not really fall off. He puts me in the mind of the kid with the Rams. God dang it. He puts me in the mind of him. And it's one of those situations, like you said, I think his.
Are you talking about Jacoby?
Yeah, puts me in the mind of him. And I think his special teams knack will give him, like you said, the edge to be able to stick with somebody.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I really like his training, and yeah, these are not in order. We just put a whole list together. That's why we didn't put numbers beside them, man. We just out here talking HBCU draft prospects, but man, Coach, your two players, man. We really wanted to talk about these guys. KJ Kinsler, your guy Claude, man. We already know, man. Claude's out here killing it. Talk about KJ and Claude and what you love about their games.
I'll start with KJ. KJ came in, man, and it's one of those stories, man, that means a little bit to me because he came in as a true freshman and just worked. To date, KJ graduated, and he still probably hadn't said more than 50 words out at football practice. He's just one of those kids that come to work, studies, got better as the years went on, lined us up, made the checks, you know, didn't bat an eye, played every special team, run down on kickoff, and then right back out, lining us up defensively. Uh, just a great kid and can play all the special teams, hard nosed, won't turn down a lick. I mean, he'll run through a wall. And he's just one of those kids, man, that I absolutely love. And I think if nothing else, he should be able to fall at one of these other three leagues uh, to get an opportunity to play, live out a pro dream. And then Claude is a sleeper, man. I'm just telling you, Claude is a sleeper. Uh, and you got a chance to see him. I think Claude is a sleeper because Claude, again, another one of those kids that can play the outside linebacker, can come off the edge, uh, can cover. Started his college career as a safety, grew into a box guy, and then leaned himself back up to get to the middle stage of the defense at linebacker. Again, great kid, graduated, hadn't said more than 50 words, just like KJ. Came to us from UMass and just worked. And I say Claude's a sleeper because Claude can actually run. I'm really excited and want to see what he runs at Pro Day. You know, everybody says they can run 4.4, 4.5. I'm just happy if I can get him to get to a 4.6 situation, measure out at 6'2", and be 225. Man, I think Claude gets him, an opportunity.
He looks every bit of 6'2", because I'm about 6'1", and he was, to me, he looked 6'2" at the game when I got to talk to him.
So when they put that measure on you, it's always different. But Claude also right now at this point has a CFL opportunity on the table. So, I'm really excited for him to have a chance to shoot for the moon. And, even if he misses, he's still amongst the stars, still has an opportunity to make money and live out his dream as a professional player. But those two kids are my sleeper. But Claude Cherloose, if he gets an opportunity, man, he's definitely a sleeper.
Just some honorable mentions I wanted to throw on here, guys who I think are in the conversation that just didn't make the cut, that could make the cut after the combine, after pro days. Nelson Jordan, we already talked about him. Keyshawn Moore from Hampton, Robert Mitchell from NCCU, Joshua Pryor from Bowie State, Dejon Warren from Jackson, Andrew Farmer from Lane College, Brandon Gaddy from Alabama State, Emmanuel Wilson from Fort Valley State, 6'1", 225 at running back, and what I was told runs like a 4.4.
6'1".
That's killing it. Dallas Daniels as well for Jack State at wide receiver, and then Isaiah Williams from Delaware State. I think all those guys are kind of in this conversation, for top HBCU prospects. But guys, I really did want to mention. But Coach, man, that is a wrap on the topics. But I did have to ask. There's been a massive Twitter debate going on. I don't know if you've seen it, where people are having, I mean, it's been ridiculous. I'll just say this, and I've already kind of given my take on it. Do you feel like Shedeur deserved the HBCU Player of the Year award over Davius?
When you're talking about,
I will say this: this is full season, and I do not know. I've asked, I haven't got an answer. I'm pretty sure voting was done before the Celebration Bowl.
Yeah, I think that is how it goes because we had the same situation, I think, with Felix with that award as well. So it's supposed to be done before then. Numbers, if that's what we're going on, I also think that a little bit of the debate is kind of that he's no longer in the league kind of thing. I think that has a little bit to do with it. But I completely turned off from that whole debate because someone got on saying that was the greatest college football season from a quarter league ever. And I'm just like, excuse me, but there was a guy that left Lorman, Mississippi and went to New York to sit in the Heisman, and I know that was years ago, but when you start talking about those types of seasons, man, you can't say that, throwing for a measly 3,000 yards is anywhere near 5,000 yards, So I turned that argument off a long time ago, B, just because they tried to say that This man was that man status. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. But if you're going by numbers, man, I think that's what you go by, right?
Yeah, it's a statistical award. Like in my opinion, I think it's getting lost. Like it always, and I think someone mentioned this is like it doesn't have to be because I agree. Shador should have won the award this year. He had the best season out of any quarterback in HBCU football this year. It's simple, and it's a statistical award. It's the same reason Akil Glass has won it 2 straight seasons before then, because statistically he was the best quarterback in HBCU football for the past 2 seasons. I think what people are getting confused is that if you say that Shador deserved it, it's not saying that Richard is not a good quarterback.
Right.
And if you're a central person who thinks that Davius should win it, that doesn't mean that Shador is a trash quarterback. But I do agree. I think it turned into more of a Shador isn't here anymore, so why are we giving it to him? And and for me, and then the other big debate was, which I think it was already smashed, is that you to be in the Black College Football Hall of Fame or whatever, you have to have won this award or something like this, or been a finalist. But and they were like, does Shador deserve it after only 2 years? But someone sent me a rule that said you have to graduate from an HBCU to be inducted in the Black College Football National Hall of Fame or whatever it is. So I think that debate's kind of died down too. But I don't know how I feel. If to me, because I hate this coach, I don't know how you feel. There were a lot of people trashing Florida fans for claiming James Houston. But is the energy going to be the same if Shador goes first round and Jackson fans are claiming him? Are they going to take kindly to Colorado fans telling them, shut up, he's a Colorado grad? I'm just asking that because that's my biggest thing. Because I did see because someone was calling who's the kid? Okay, where did the kid play? The kid from Cincinnati, Brian Cook.
Yeah, but I bring it back home to you. Aubrey. Where did Aubrey start at?
Missouri.
Do they have any stake or any claim in that?
My thing is here's how I look at it. I think if a player contributed significantly at multiple schools can claim them. In my opinion, Alabama has just as much claim to Jalen Hurts as Oklahoma does. That's just my opinion. I think, but I don't think, here's what I don't think. I don't think Florida State has any claim to Isaiah Bolden than Jackson does.
No, I don't know. I think it goes back to what you said. I think you had to have significant time contribution.
Yeah.
I think that because you were there and we know you were there because you transferred. That's the only reason we know you were there. And it's not slighting the kid, but for the debaters, I just don't know how you flip that. And then, like you were saying earlier, like they were saying about the Hall of Fame, I'm like, that is so far down the road for Shador, if that even comes up. I mean, that's way down the road. A whole nother ball of wax in that situation. But I think from what I know, he goes out to Colorado and freaking kills it. Somebody is gonna say, well, we raised him, where he got his start. I think somebody will say that, no doubt about it.
Because I think it's a slippery slope because to me, like if I don't think Arkansas has any claim to Cole Kelly. Like that, he's from Southeastern Louisiana. But if Cole Kelly would have played 3 seasons at Arkansas, started, then transferred to Southeastern, like, man, that's kind of like, I mean, you kind of both got a point there.
My man at Incarnate Word,
Cameron Ward,
who, I mean,
well, yeah, like who would have stake in Lindsey Scott? Because you got Incarnate Word, Nichols, LSU, and Missouri.
You know, I mean, what are we doing? But like you said, I think it's all in the eye of the beholder, and it's the person that has the marker last.
That's true. Yeah, and there's always some people who say that because I said, listen, I know Leon in the chat doesn't agree with me about Jalen Hurts. He said that Bama doesn't have a claim to him, but like, man, he won a national title, bro. Like, I don't know how like he doesn't like Bama fans don't have a claim.
Won a national title and was playing in the other one when wasn't playing so well, and Georgia blew a coverage, and the other kid became famous for the comeback. Do you realize if Georgia just plays the coverage, Tua's probably not Tua. Georgia just plays the coverage, but that's the sport we play, man. I mean, that's
What Georgia has 3 national titles in the past 5 seasons.
and should have had that one.
Mm.
It was a coverage deal. I mean, you can't let Devon. You can't. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole.
That's but coach, I gotta ask you, okay, because a lot of people have been asking me high, low. I want your lowest guesstimate and your highest. So give me a range here. Number of HBCU players drafted this season.
I think anything over 4 is not being realistic.
Okay.
I'd say 4.
Ooh, gave me it on the money.
I say 4. But I think 4 actually get their name called, and then I just think it's going to be a run of free agent deals where guys get a chance to get into camp. But 4 get
that. Because I was going to say 2 to 5. I think 5's the highest, and that's if someone reaches on somebody.
Right.
Because I can see like a special teams guy like Isaiah Bolden pushing it over, like someone taking them in the 6th or 7th round. Because I think it's obvious that you probably got Mark Evans is guaranteed. He's going. Isaiah Land and Aubrey Miller are probably going. I think those are the 3 that are guaranteed. And then it's a bunch of borderline guys that's just like, is someone going to take them?
I'm with you on those 3. And then I just think Xavier has definitely, just because he caught fire from Steve Smith, from other analysts, I think just because he caught fire in that situation that he'll be that 4th guy. Now, there's going to be some guys that I think could possibly get in, but I just don't think will. But the Everett kid, I mean, let's just be honest. If he was at Louisville, it would be a no-brainer. Shaq Davis, if Shaq was at South Carolina, it would be a no-brainer. If he still was doing the numbers, would be a no-brainer. The Keenan kid at Alabama State, if he was at Alabama, it would be a no freaking brainer.
Hell, if he was at UAB, it might be a no-brainer.
I mean, that's why I think it kind of those 4 to me are guaranteed. I think are locks. And then those other guys are just, ain't nothing but a dice game, man.
I always tell people, like, when you get past probably the late 4th, it's just a guessing game on the interview process. Like, who thinks that guy could fit their system? And it's just, man, all those draft rankings that Mel Kiper and all of them spend all that time on, throw that shit out the window. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, people are just taking people from NAIA schools, D2 school. Like, I mean, it's just backups at Georgia. Like, it doesn't matter.
Now we're just finding people to plug and play for what we feel we're short on, so to speak. Because you can't tell me the kid that started the games for the 49ers.
Purdy?
Yeah, Mr. Relevant.
Yeah.
There were that many more quarterbacks better than. You know what I mean? And you start talking about those types of picks, it's all in what the team sees or who they have in that room. You know what I mean? Who they have in that room that's going to look and say, well, Shaq Davis is 6'5", 210, has numbers. I don't care where the numbers come from. He has numbers. And we're talking about a kid that's 6'2", 180 at South Florida. You know, where are we going? Who in that room is going to say we're taking Shaq? As compared to who's in that room is going to be like, we're going to take the kid from South Florida. He played against tougher competition, so to speak. So that's kind of where I'm at, man. I'm saying 4. And those 4, I feel like, are, for lack of a better word, locks.
Ooh. Okay, so I'll be honest. You might have just talked me up. If you think Xavier's a lock, I think Shaq is a lock. I might move my high up to 6.
Yeah, I think Xavier's a lock, man.
If Xavier's a lock, listen, we're at 6 for me. I could see 6. I really could, because if you think about it, Mark's probably going to go second or third. Isaiah Aubrey will probably be somewhere in that 3rd to 5th range. That's already 3 off the board before you had a 1 taken really last year.
Yep.
If X is a lock, I think Shaq goes if X goes. Zay can slide in there as special teams. And then, man, you're looking for one more to push it to 7. If out of all the prospects we talked today, no one's going to take a chance on Keyshawn Moore, on Keenan Isaac, on, I mean, who else do you want to throw into the loop? Let me pull up the prospect list again. So if you're at 6, you got Nelson Jordan, Keyshawn Moore, Robert Mitchell, Joshua Pryor, Nugget, Kamari Everett, who else? Jadakiss Bonds, Cam Peterson, Brandon Gaddy, Emmanuel Wilson, Dallas. It's like, man, all it takes is for one more to go.
That's what I say. I mean, I said those 4 are locks, and then after that, it's just a dice game to see who's going to step up in the room and say, "Hey, we're going to take this kid here from South Carolina State."
I think it's a massive win. If you hit 5 to 6, that's an A+ year.
Crazy. It's crazy at that point. Because I think when we get to the 4th and 5th, I think either Kansas City or a team like my Commanders make a move on an Xavier. Don't be surprised if the Carolina Panthers wouldn't make a move on him. Steve Smith is still connected to that organization. And if he just goes out and has half a decent day, I think, running drills and catching the ball, I think X is in there, man.
I like it because I'll say this: if HBCU can get 4 to 5, I mean, you're talking about. I don't think the FCS as a whole, because we're not even talking about D2 guys that might get reached on from HBCUs. This is just FCS guys, D1 guys. Man, the FCS could have 30+ players drafted if the HBCUs get 6.
That's a heck of a year, because my quarterback, D, what's his name? I always mess it up. You always bail me out. Quarterback with all the yards up. Man, I don't want to butcher the kid's name.
What school?
Up north, he had all the yards. They lost the playoff game, something like.
DeMorit? Tim?
Yeah. I mean, how do we not?
Okay.
How do they not? You know what I mean? Kid almost threw for 10,000 yards in a season.
6'5".
He's not like you said, he's not a little guy. I think he did opportunity. And then when you start spreading out, now I saw where Lindsey Scott got drafted in the other deal.
Yeah, pick 2.
Yeah, which was definitely a good deal. But he's athletic enough to where I would have thought that some team would have, at least took an opportunity to look at him, kick the tires. And now you're talking about adding even more in the running back out at Dakota State.
He ain't coming out.
Oh, he's not.
Isaiah?
Yeah.
He's back. He was a junior.
Oh, man, I thought he was gone.
No, the entire South Dakota State running room coming back.
Wow.
But the fullback from North Dakota State, the Lipke, he'll probably be a draft pick.
I know he's high, but I thought the kid from South Dakota State, man, I thought he was going to.
That's next year.
Call fire, man. I don't know if I'd have went back.
Everybody, the Yankee twins came back for 6 year. Both of them.
That's cheap, man.
Coach, they're returning 18 starters. I think it was 30. I want to say it was 30 plus on the two deep coming back next year.
That's cheating.
Yeah, that everyone's probably going for second place next year. I think when you look at everything, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State will be the first prospect off the board, Cody Monk. He'll probably be a late first round, early second round pick. He'll probably be the first off the board. The tight end from South Dakota State, Tucker Kraft, will be off the board. He's a lock. Marte Mapu from Sac State, who was down at the Senior Bowl, he's probably a lock. And you got what, 6 HBCU guys that we'll throw in there. I'm just trying to think of people just off the top of my head who are probably locks. I could see Demoret getting a shot. The wide receiver from Incarnate Word, I think will be interesting. Darian Chafin. I know he had to have surgery, but he's a guy who's 6'6" and can fly and was one of the top receivers in the FCS. I could see, man, because I don't think there's been 30 since 2008. Coach, I want to say it's 2008.
It's been a minute before it was a huge run on that. But then you think about it, as you just brought it back to my attention. Now it just gets to, in those later rounds, middle of the fifth, sixth, seven. Now those guys, like you said, now will they go ahead and start to reach, instead of taking the third string guy from Iowa? Are we going to see what Demoret has? You know what I mean? Or give this guy an opportunity from an FCS. So that'll be interesting to see, man. But I got 4 for sure.
I like that. Yeah, no. Now you kind of taught me up. I think 4 to 6 would be great. And so, Coach, we'll end it off here. My guy Dave from North Dakota State said he wants to know, Coach. He said, do you ever get fired up and angry? He said that you seem too chill to be a football coach.
Every now and then, you have to get that paper up there like that so they understand what you're saying. But I kind of take the Tony Dungy approach. Sometimes I feel like you get more, especially the positions that I've had the pleasure of coaching. DB, receiver. I feel like you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. So I kind of take that approach, and it wasn't until 2 years ago, coaching in that Celebration Bowl in the secondary, that all this grace showed up, because I was yelling and screaming because we couldn't figure out how to stop A&T. But yeah, I get after it, man. I'm gonna do a show, man, live at practice. I'm gonna put it up in the Bluebloods coaches corner.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy you one of those like GoPros, like the help, like the either the chest ones, like a body cam for practice. It'll be Coach Fred through spring practice over at Alcorn.
Coming.
Oh man, but guys, hey, we appreciate y'all tuning in, man. We had to push the show back yesterday, man. We both got super, super busy, man. So I appreciate all y'all tuning in. If you're watching the replay, appreciate you tuning in as well. Hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. You can go check out all the HBCU Legacy Bowl content on the playlist, man. Interviews, practice footage, interview with Coach Courtney Core, defensive coordinator from North Carolina Central, man, he coached at the Senior Bowl before this, man. He's been having a hell of an off season. It was a great chance to get to chop it up with him. But listen, me and Coach Fred got a lot of stuff in the work. We're probably going to be live at Pro Day in Jackson, Mississippi, where it's a small school pro day. Valley, Alcorn State, Jackson State, the whole 9. Me and Coach Fred will be down in the vet live there, getting interviews, footage, man, talking to some of the top prospects, probably get some coaches on as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. But guys, for Coach Fred, for myself, and for the Blue Bloods, man, we are out for right now.